Police officers of Reddit, what's the funniest thing someone has done because they were nervous around you? Daughter of a cop. My dad pulled next to a DeLorean at a red light and started having a little chit-chat. My dad, being the classic white guy punny dad, trying to be funny asked, "So what happens when you reach 88 miles?" And without hesitation whatsoever, he responds, "I get a ticket." My friend drove me home once when we were stopped for a routine check. He sipped from a beer once and was so nervous he said, "I drank much orange juice, so if you test me positive on alcohol, that's because the juice became alcohol in my belly." Couple of colleagues and I were searching a house for weapons after a guy had threatened his mum with a samurai sword. We were in his room, finding knives, swords, a crossbow when one of my colleagues picks up a cylinder from the bed. I stared at him, gobsmacked, as he held it with his bare, ungloved hands, only to hear him ask, "What the fuck is this?" Between laughing my ass off and gasping for breath, I managed to tell him it's a fleshlight. He fucks it to get off. Colleague stared at his slimy, recently used prize for a split second before squealing like a pig and launching it across the room. Partner and I pull up at Taco Bell to grab lunch. Notice this dude near a work truck looking kinda shifty, but he's standing next to another dude and both are wearing the same company logo. I pretty much ignore him, however I realized I left my wallet back in the car. When I turn around the dude is nowhere to be seen. He hasn't bolted, parking lot is too big, and we would see him. At this point it has piqued my interest and I walk towards the truck, all the while the other dude is just standing there shaking his head. Turns out this idiot is on his stomach trying to crawl under the truck because he thinks we are there for him. Bewildered, we detain the dude for a moment. We quickly find out he has no outstanding warrants, but instead was guilty of something stupidly minor. He used some of the gas from one of the company cans for his personal vehicle, and he thought his boss knew. Dude ruined his work shirt, got called a fucking idiot by his coworker, and didn't even get away for no reason. Edit. For those wondering, the reason he was detained was reasonable suspicion, not probable cause. A reasonable person would believe that due to his actions, he was going to be, currently was, or has been involved in criminal activity. Hey, look at that, technically he had been involved in a crime. However, this guy punished himself more than enough. Be it from his silly actions or the guilt weighing on his mind for such a petty theft. No need for me to contact his boss over $3 of gasoline. My dad and I both work for the same PD, this is his story not min. The shift before he had a guy detained for misdemeanor warrants or something. Some junkie comes walking down the road, sees the flashing lights and a cop next to an open back door. He empties his pockets dumping a pipe, needles, and 5 grams of meth on the hood of his patrol car. He then spreads his legs and puts his hands on the car. My dad was shocked, let the other guy in the back go and took in the guy who just handed over his meth. Apparently not sleeping for 3 days makes you paranoid. I commonly have people hand me their credit card or some other plastic when asked for their driver license. I think things that are done purposely have been funnier, like someone looking me in the eyes and purposely pissing their pants. Got called to an alleged suicide attempt. At site we spoke to the man and very quickly realized that he's in a shitty situation with work, flat and money, but far from committing suicide. It was his family who called us first place because he had told them farewell. It turned out he is gay, and his strictly Muslim family hates his guts for it. Obviously he wanted to break boundaries with them, but they interpreted it as his final leave. Respecting his privacy, we obviously asked if we could come inside his flat so the neighbors won't hear all his private details. Inside the flat we actually found a cannabis plant. He assured us it was only for making tea, and he was in such a miserable position, about to be homeless, not a single bite of food at home, no job or money, that we just thought fuck it. However, since we aren't allowed to diagnose if a person is suicidal or not, we have to take him to a doctor to judge this, no matter how sure we are. So we ask him to gather some clothes as he might need to stay in hospital for the night. Followed by my colleague, he aimlessly walks around his flat, collecting this and that piece, until he opens the what we assumed bedroom door. 40 cannabis plants with IR lamps, fertilizer bags, seeds were visible right in that room. I have no idea why he would open this door, but he immediately realized his mistake and assured us again that it were all male plants, those have much less THC and aren't useful for growing weed. In the end he actually got brought to hospital, but he got his whole flat searched and charges for growing and selling drugs because he opened the wrong door. Could have just said he got everything. I would not have checked. Not a police officer, but my dad was driving, with me, my brother, my mum and the cat in the carrier, to our new house, but he didn't put his seatbelt on because he was stressed or something. Then a police car drove over and asked Dad, "Guess why I pulled you over?" My dad was really nervous and farted loudly, turned around, and blamed it on the cat. The police officer was hysterical and told him to put his seatbelt on and laughed hysterically while driving off. Wife got nervous when a cop pulled up behind her at a traffic light once. When she was pulling away, he turned on his lights and pulled her over. Turns out she absent-mindedly pulled away when the light was still red. No ticket. Not a cop, but I used to work as an EMT. Drivers who were speeding would sometimes slow down when they would see my ambulance, like I could pull them over or something. Even with no lights or sirens on. I always thought that was hilarious. Also, when running lights and sirens, instead of moving over and letting my ambulance pass, some idiots would slam on tire brakes before moving to the side when I came up behind them, forcing me to slam on my brakes. Never do this. Not a police officer, but I was in the 5th grade and my school had a resource officer and a police buddy of theirs at the school. I had 2 fidget spinners stolen that day, but I wasn't comfortable around cops or anybody in general. I decided since it was the last day of school I would make sure I got my spinners back. I went up to the officer and told them in the exact words, "Someone at the school is fidgeting with my spinners and I don't know who it is." I have never seen someone so confused in their life. Not an officer, but as I was smoking in a park at night I saw flashlights coming up the path and quickly ate the remainder of my 2 5-gram joint. Unbeknownst to me, it was my uncle, who is an officer in my city's small department. He obviously knew and luckily didn't tell my parents. Not a cop, but I like to go out at night and basically dick around and do stupid shit like put on a light-up helmet and have friends push me around in a shopping cart. Teenage boy shit. I don't drink or smoke or vape or anything, but I've always been worried that some cop is gonna see me doing this shit and test me for like drugs or alcohol or something, and I'll come out clean. What would he even do then? Is there a protocol for clean, sober kid acting like a dipshit in a CVS parking lot? Not a police officer, but one time my unit in the army was training with the Border Patrol in Southern California. Over the course of 3 weeks, guys being what guys are, start trading t-shirts for souvenirs and such. Anyways, we came out of a field problem and wanted something to eat. Our Border Patrol partners recommended a small hole-in-the-wall restaurant and told us to let the staff know the regulars had sent to us so we would get taken care of. So we quickly changed into the new clean shirts, and as it turns out we got slightly lost. We walked into a small Mexican restaurant and told the hostess that the Border Patrol had sent us, all the while wearing Border Patrol t-shirts. A couple of quick glances from the kitchen staff and some dropped plates occurred as 3 or 4 members of the cooking crew ran out the back of the store. We had to repeat multiple times that we were in the army and just wanted breakfast. After everyone calmed down, we ate a great breakfast, tipped well, and were on our way, and never wore Border Patrol hats again. Correctional officer, an inmate said something that was an oxymoron. So I told them that that was an oxymoron. They looked at me kinda funny and said, "What?" I told them again, "What you just said is an oxymoron." They responded all hostile saying, "Excuse me? What did you just call me? Do you know what an oxymoron is?" They obviously didn't. Who gives a fuck what a cop thinks is funny?